Well, hello. There we are.
We made it.
And that's a strange delay. Okay. That's better. I'm Franz. This is Andy.
Hello.
This is the Town Hall for Concrete CMS in October 2023. Yeah, pretty easy month. We've got a little bit of news to talk about and standard stuff. Got the PRB check-in and thanks from community and that kind of thing. So let's get right into it. First piece of news that I got, you may have seen the newsletter that went out. We're looking for more case studies. We've been posting a lot of case studies to the site, but if we don't have your cool project, we should. There's a lot of folks that build stuff with concrete that just enjoy watching these videos, but are not active forum members and are not in touch with us. And we'd love to hear more about what you're doing. Just met an agency week before last, I guess, that been using concrete for a decade or more, building intranets and portals for cool companies, and I'd never connected with them. So we don't want that to be you. So please do reach out, and there's lots of opportunities to get engaged, many of which will just benefit you and not take a tremendous amount of energy. Case in point, we're doing a little video testimonial case study with those guys right now. Good for them, good for us. Spread the word about the cool stuff that you build with concrete. Let's see, more news. We are officially announcing right now, that we are going to continue to provide security updates for the version 8 major branch through 2024. So that is a whole nother, what is that, year and 2 months, 14 months that you get, where if your site is running on version 8 and you've got it upgraded to the latest, you can sleep soundly. You will probably need to find yourself a host that runs PHP 7.4 long-term support, LTS, but that's pretty easy to do. Both of the budget hosts on our website do that. And certainly if you're doing things at kind of like a higher level, you can certainly do that with different flavors of Unix on any cloud provider. And for us, we want to make it easy to keep your sites that are done and valuable and working, safe and working for the foreseeable future. So if you're building something new, we would love you to be building that on Concrete version 9. That is the version that we're adding new features to. That is the version that we are actively developing on and caring about. And we'll talk a little bit more about how those kind of subversions work here in a second. But if you've got a site built on 8 and you're looking at migrating, you're like, this is a lot of work, we want to make sure that you're getting value out of that. End of the day, these websites are products that serve a purpose, and it's not that difficult for us to release the very few security updates that we end up releasing. It's not like we're having to patch big issues and it's taking huge amounts of our time. So it's a pretty easy give for us to do. Of course, we'd love for everybody to run on the latest version of everything all the time. But the reality is, hey, those sites are built. They're working great. Let's leave them be. Let's build new sites in version 9. That buys everybody a lot of room. As we come up with big new ideas, those are going into version 10, and that will kind of remain, future branch for a while. It's a little bit more of a focus on intranet and community in there. And so as that releases, there may be a pretty good period where version 9 is a perfectly viable way to run a site that you built for version 9 and works well with version 9. And there's new features in version 10 that will drive you to want to use that for those features. But we can maintain those multiple versions and make sure that your site is safe as we go. That makes sense? Did I say everything that we wanted to say there, Andy, or did I?
Yeah, no, that's about, I think that covers everything. Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about point releases and minor releases and how we kind of organize shifts in how we're organizing code that we get submitted to us?
Sure. Let me just, can you see the screen, Franz?
I can.
Awesome.
There you go.
So this is a document that has not gone live yet, but it will be going live fairly soon on our docs site. It looks a lot like a doc that is live, so you might be forgiven for wondering, hey, isn't this something that already exists? But there are some kind of important little tweaks to this that I think will probably, if you're a frequent user of Concrete, you'll probably find these long overdue, and we're pretty excited about them. So basically, we are going to a more structured, more dependable release model. In broad strokes, and that's what this page describes. In broad strokes, the big versions, the major versions, the 8s, the 9s, the 10s, those will still come out every several years when they're ready. We're not going to transition to a strict 2-year model or anything like that, because we just put too much stuff in those. We have too much going on to promise that those will be ready every 2 years, but they will continue to come out when they're ready with beta periods and release candidates. But one thing that is new is the minor versions of those releases, the 9.1s, the 9.2s, they will come out on a more structured release cycle. So that means 2 releases per year, likely in the late spring and the late fall. Not necessarily, we're not necessarily committed to that 100% or beholden to that 100%. You never know what the future may bring, but that's been the times historically when we've done these minor releases. And so we're pretty comfortable committing to that. And the biggest change by far is that we are now going to commit to a new patch version every month, typically on the first Tuesday of each month. So that means you'll get a 9.1.1 so for example, in November, you'll be getting a 9.2.2, and then in December a 9.2.3, unless for some reason no new fixes have come in between those 2 releases, which has never happened before, and I highly doubt it'll happen again. There might be some times where after a major release we do more patch releases. That's certain than monthly, but this is sort of the minimum. The minimum you can expect now is a patch release per month, and I think many of you will probably say that's long overdue, and I'm pretty happy about that. We're taking some time to rework our release process to make it much easier to deliver those releases to you. So it'll be easier on us to do those, and easier to believe that we'll want to do those releases frequently. And so that's kind of the broad strokes of what we're looking at here. And then the last sort of major thing that we've always kind of done this informally, but we're going to make it more formal, is the last minor version of a Concrete CMS release before a major version we will designate that the LTS model, or the LTS version. So in the example of 8.5, or version 8 rather, 8.5.0 was the last minor version of version 8 before version 9 was released. So that means 8.5 is an LTS version. And that means in the future, we will continue to do patch releases every month for that version for a foreseeable period. I think we were at least 3 years. Version 8 is a different case. We've kind of gone above and beyond the requirements for that in terms of security and bug fixes. But these are, like Franz said, these are not the hardest releases to put together. And if you're running a site on version 8, we want you to know that it'll be stable and secure for the long haul. So that's kind of, again, no huge changes here other than the patch versions coming on a regular basis. But it's just kind of nice to have it codified. And so you can expect this document to go live, and some other documents that advocate for various that show up on our PHP system requirements pages and supported versions pages. You can expect those to be updated too. Did I get everything, Franz?
Yeah, I think you got everything. So the point or patch releases, that third digit, are really bug fixes, dependency updates that won't break things.
Yeah.
Very small stuff that either we do or submitted to us that we're like, oh yeah, this is custodial housekeeping kind of thing.
I think I did miss a fairly large portion of nothing that subverts what I said, but something that will help explain how we're going to make this work. We are going to be restructuring GitHub. So if you care about GitHub, you'll be noticing some pretty significant changes in there, not with where the code lives per se, but in how it's branched. So right now in GitHub, we have a develop branch, and that's kind of because we started based off of Git flow, which is a model where you have the master or the main branch, and that's sort of meant to like delineate what is in production. But this is useful for projects where you're running a website and you can always look in the main branch and say, I know that whatever is in this main branch is what is reliably in the production use of whatever application I'm using. But when you're actually working on software, it's not really as useful to have this Git flow when as it might be otherwise. For example, nothing about the develop branch tells you what version it is. And so there's always been this uncomfortable period when we release a new major version, like version 10, we have this develop branch that inevitably is version 9.3 or whatever the case may be. And then we have to make a weird switch at some point. And then you may not even know, but now all of a sudden when you're submitting code to the develop branch, it's going to be going into version 10 instead of version 9. And it's just not, nothing about it's broken, but it makes it a little bit harder to know exactly where code is going. And it makes it harder on us as maintainers to juggle the code submissions that come through. And so what ends up happening is by having a develop branch that's the default, that is just kind of the next version in the pipeline, we'll get feature updates that come in and they'll end up going into patch versions. So 9.2.2 is a good example of this, and it's probably the last example you'll see because it's kind of being worked on as we're making this change. There are feature updates in 9.2.2. Nothing huge, nothing that's backward incompatible, an odd field here, the occasional field here, they're added to different blocks. So nothing that should make you pause in terms of upgrading, but a patch version really ought, it really shouldn't have those. Like, if you're really strictly following the semantic versioning model, the patch version should really be stuff like security fixes, PHP, fixes for PHP 8, odd bug fixes here and there. And then version 9.3 would have the, new field in the top navigation bar block or whatever the case may be. So what we're going to do to facilitate that and make it so that you'll feel a little less scared applying those patch releases and know that really when it's a patch release, you might get just a handful of bug fixes, but your site's going to stay stable. It's going to upgrade super cleanly and quickly. It's not going to be a scary process. We are going to change the versioning model or the branching model in GitHub so that the branches are strictly numbered. And this is, if you look at projects like Laravel or Drupal, this is how they all do it. And we're a little late to the party on this, and it makes total sense to me, at least. And so what you're going to see in GitHub when you go to submit an issue is 9.3.x will, for example, will become the default branch for a new pull request. It won't be named develop anymore. It'll be named 9.3.x. And so then if you submit a bug fix, or if you submit a new feature, for example, a good new one that we haven't merged yet because we don't want to merge it into this patch release, is the ability to have WebP images in the file manager as thumbnails. And this is, not a small thing. It's not something we want to necessarily just foist on people in a patch release. We want to make it, and we also want to give it the fanfare that it needs. And so what will happen in the future is when people submit pull requests, they will open automatically against the next minor version of Concrete CMS, so 9.3.x. And so at that point, it's up to us as maintainers. We can look at those and say, if it's a huge update, we'll say, hey, you need to reopen this against the version 10.x branch because this is too big to include in a minor release. We want to, it causes backward incompatibilities or who knows what. We need to reopen it against 10.x. And if it's a bug fix, we will probably, it remains to be seen. We'll probably merge it into 9.3.x and then merge that into, well, we can't merge down. So what we might ask you to do if you're submitting bug fixes is to submit into the 9.2.x, which is the next patch release, and then merge back up. And at a certain point, the idea being that patch release branches should generally merge up to minor release branches without too much trouble. But minor release branches merging down to patch releases is not really, that historically doesn't really work very well because you're going to get a lot of code that you don't want. So there will probably be some cherry picking involved with us. It's not going to be always the easiest thing for us to keep these things, make sure that we keep them separate. But I think the result is going to be, you'll know when you get a minor release that that's time to update, that you're going to get some good new features. You're going to get some bug fixes. They'll be the same bug fixes that would have been in the patch releases, so you don't have to worry about upgrading in a row or anything like that. But if you're really working on a site and you're thinking, I need to keep the site secure and stable, and I don't want to even upgrade to a minor release at this time, I'll just stay on the patch releases. And you should know in doing so that you're not going to get features that you may not have bargained for, and that your upgrades are going to be smooth and fast. So expect to see that restructuring. I hope it doesn't end up closing pull requests or causing problems. It'll probably be an uncomfortable few days when we implement that, but don't be surprised if you go to open a pull request and you see a different branch by default than develop.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are changing the way we use GitHub today. In the past, we've used it really as if we were running a single product, a website or a SaaS product where there is a single current version that we're all on, and there's a developer trying to move things to master and production. And that works great, and we still do that when we're running a client site that way. But since we're supporting all of you and the many versions of Concrete that are out there, it doesn't make sense to organize things that way. We will now have multiple versions of Concrete that we are actively managing via GitHub. We'll have the 8 branch that we will continue to provide security updates through 2024 in. We will have version 9, where we will be making point releases once a month, as long as there's something new to submit, which there almost always is. Those point releases will be very, very small, very, very safe to upgrade. So really security, small dependency or PHP issues that we know will not have backwards compatibility issues. We will do minor releases when there's new features or when there's new custodial stuff that we need to do. So we will no longer pair large infrastructure upgrades with large feature upgrades, which I think is a sin that we've made in the past that we want to get away from. So next time PHP decides that everything that we've done for the last 20 years is wrong and we get to do it in a new way, that will be a dedicated version that is really just focused on cleaning up the way that PHP is written. And it won't also be with a whole bunch of new interface and other things that you want, which is kind of what we did with version 9 and made things needlessly difficult for everyone. We're also changing the way that we actually release the core. So there's fewer manual steps and more automated ones. So don't be shocked if, as you look at GitHub later and this week, and you see some changes happening, and you can count on us to release things at least that frequently. I think it was the last thing I communicated was that, once a month on those point releases. If there's some huge security issue and there's a 0-day problem, we'll certainly do a release whenever we need to.
Or if we make a mistake,
there's really
minor and a major,
there's
always
follow up
3 days later from version 10, there's 10.0.1,
So hopefully we'll have a lot less of that, because as we're releasing every month and we've got more automation around that, both on the release and the testing, I like to think that we would see fewer of those, now that I actually used it, I see this problem type stuff. And of course, if we get massive new features and there's a lot of code coming in and we're like, we're definitely doing a minor release more than twice a year, that's fine too. So these are kind of bare minimum commitments. Just because it's nice to be able to set your clock by when the new software is coming out. I know we depend on a lot of third-party software ourselves, and it's always cool when it's not a surprise when we get to upgrade things, because we get to upgrade things on fixed schedules because of a lot of our compliance and DoD stuff. There's rules out there that, hey, if a new software version is available, you've got to install it within X days. And so we're trying to play nice because, we feel that pain too. Wow. That was so simple. If anybody has any questions, by all means, post them in chat and we will address them later in the town hall. Now, let's move on to the thanks. An open source community. We're here on the backs of many. Always cool that we're meeting people routinely that we, as I mentioned earlier, have never heard of and have built amazing stuff with our software. So thank you to everybody who uses Concrete in any capacity. And we want to do a couple of shout outs to people who are active on concretecms.com and .org and helping others move things forward. So Andy, do you want to do some name dropping?
Sure. Yeah, so thanks to everyone who submitted code this past month. That is M. Locati, Hope to get some more submissions next month. We also have been super busy with some other things as well, and I suspect that is the case throughout the world. But as always, thank you so much, M. Locati, for submitting code. You are a tireless promoter and advocate for Concrete CMS. To all those who submitted issues in the past month, that includes Hishi, Marco Chioni, Jay Lucky, Ram Dej, African Forest, Numinous, Nick Radering, Apaku, M. Hawk, M. Locati, Morier, WTFLM, Heflemy, Telakman, Tak, and Freynot. Thank you so much for making sure that the software improves and helping us figure out ways for us to do that. And finally, thanks to those who submitted documentation. It is not always easy or glamorous, but it always makes the software better. That includes Lemon Brain and M. Nakalai. So thanks everyone who submitted to Concrete this month.
Nice. Thank you. Additionally, once a month, we give out a Golden Baton Award. That is a special badge, $250 in marketplace credit, your picture on a page, and our eternal thanks. This month, we are giving that award to Present. Another person that is news to me, but is super active in the forums, has been helping people, reading a shocking number of posts and replying quite a bit and getting a lot of hearts for it. 15 hearts received there. You're gonna like this, Andy. All in Japanese.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah, that's great.
Pretty cool. So Concrete has always had a big presence in Japan. Thank you, Katz and Hishi, for helping to kind of lead that, and here is a member from your community, and I guess our larger community that is doing awesome stuff. So thank you, Present. Appreciate you being active there and helping, and we'll see you online. Concrete makes the link so small. That's cool. All right, we're doing great. Now is the time where we check in with the PRB, a peer review board, and see what they've been doing. Fire it up.
Hello and welcome to another month's Marketplace news from the PRB team. Diving straight in, our theme this month is the version 9 update of the popular Pixel theme by Sharrock. The Pixel theme has been around for a long time, and with this Bootstrap 5 update it still looks very crisp and modern. Features include a full-size header slider, many custom blocks including counters, pricing tables, sliders, galleries, call to actions, and templates for all the usual core blocks. It also has portfolio listings and a very well thought out blog structure. Pixel 9 is $50 in the marketplace. Now over to Noor for this month's add-ons.
Hello. Thank you, John. This month, we have a new package by John the Fish, who seems to be on a mission to repopulate the marketplace on his own, and I'm sure it's as fun as it sounds. Most of John's packages let you export and import settings between blocks and websites and keep a library of settings as named settings. This new package, Stored Settings Manager, lets you manage the stored name settings. It provides you with a centralized dashboard page, as well as a dashboard page for individual packages, such as Form Reform or Omni Gallery. From there, you edit, delete, duplicate, and view your settings. It's one of those time savers that's hard to ignore, especially since it's free in the marketplace, available for Concrete 9, and is PHP 8 ready. Our second package is Zen Swiper by Darius Garris. It's an advanced package swiper based on the battle-tested Swiper.js script. Fully touch optimized, it comes packed with parameters and possibilities. You can control animations, interaction, responsive behavior, and much more. It's an intermediate level package, but you can also keep it simple. If you're looking for a sexy slider package that dazzles the user, this Zen Swiper package won't disappoint. It's $20 in the marketplace, works with Concrete 9 and above, and is PHP 8 ready. And lastly, a new package by Crowglass, CHD Achievement Counter. This block lets you add a numeric achievement on your website with a rolling time. Say you want a nice counting animation on your page to tell the world you have finalized your 100th project. This is it. It gives you just enough styling options to make it quickly usable, things like size and alignment, and is added to your page in 2 minutes top. This achievement counter is $15 in a marketplace available for Concrete 9 and PHP 8 ready. Well, that's it for today. Thank you. Be safe. See you next time.
Awesome. That is a lot of Smurfs.
And that is quite the achievement.
Impressive. Cool stuff. I see that theme upgraded. Cool slider. John's stuff is always very impressive. Thank you, PRB, for putting that stuff through. Appreciate all that work. Okay, now I think we're going into a show and tell. Let's look at a site that we have found in the wild and see what people are building with concrete. Oh, I think I got to change the. There we go. Just found this one, and I think it's pretty cool. It is Dutch. They have a full range of cleaning products. They're using the community store e-commerce extension, which is always cool to see because that is very powerful, and like to see that being used by folks.
Cool.
Also, a weird full circle for me. The very first website I ever got paid to build was for a German vacuum company called Ruvac. Their slogan was "Wir suchen alles," and I always thought that was really funny. So here we are. Life has brought me back to helping people sell vacuums online. But yeah, good looking site. You can manage different sizing and quantity and inventory and all that kind of stuff, and to forget specifications and other data sheets. So Concrete always does well when you've got a mix of programmatic functionality, strongly typed objects like products, but you're also doing drag and drop, and you want to lay out landing pages and have that flexibility. Concrete is a great choice for you. And you get your TP, industrial size TP. So
wow, maxi job.
Awesome. Gotta do it. All right. Well, if there aren't any questions for us to answer around our deployment process and point release commitment and all that type of stuff, I think it's pretty clear we got plenty of work to do. So yeah, unless we're going to have anything else, I think that's time for us to sign off. And we will see you all in a month.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.
Oh.